Well, hi, and welcome to another episode.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Obviously we always talk about what's going on in Southern California, but I'll be honest with you, as we do the show right now, it is cooled down a little bit. So,
Yeah.
so I'm excited that it's cooled down. I know when we complain about the weather, we joked about the hurricane a couple weeks ago. That really
Mhm.
wasn't a hurricane, and then, for California, it's been kind of warm recently, and now it feels like it's really nice. It's like why we live in Southern California.
I agree. To the audience, to all of you people out there, this episode, we are pre-taping because of scheduling conflicts. So this will probably be a little bit of old news by the time you hear it. But yes, it was just Labor Day weekend. We are in store for a huge warm up. I think there's a huge heat wave coming, Dave. So bite your
Yes.
tongue. But we spent yesterday Labor Day at the beach, and it was really quite warm. It was beautiful. It was actually a perfect day, but those hurricanes are real. Those waves were insane. It was insane. And we went to Zuma Beach, and anybody that
Yeah.
knows Zuma Beach, it's a huge stretch of sand before you hit the water. The waves were coming so high, we had to sit like by where you park the car. The
Wow.
volleyball courts, everything was underwater. It was a huge everything was water. And at first we sat closer to the water line, and then the waves started coming up. Everybody on the beach starts backing up and backing up. And then finally we were like past the volleyball courts at the parking lot. And finally I said, girls, let's just put the stuff in the car. Let's just put everything in the car except what you need. And I've got my Tommy Bahama chair, so I wear it as a backpack. I put what we needed in there, and then we just were on foot. And I said, this way we don't have to worry, because I have the whole tent set up. I have everything set up, and I'm like, forget it. Today's not the day. I'm not redoing this again. So, and you know what? Days like that, it just turned into such a fun day. It turned into like adventures. We walked up and down the beach. The girls kept finding like berms, and Keegan's like backflipping off of it, and it just turned out to be such a fun day. Those are like, you can't plan that stuff. And then we
You know
came
what's
home and grilled. Yeah, it was a great day.
All right, I got to ask you a beach question because for me, I'm one of those guys that the beach is the one place I finally feel just relaxed. Yeah, I'm never looking at my phone. I'm not thinking about work. I'm not thinking about all the stuff that you stress out about through a regular day. But when I go to the beach, I can sit on the beach and just look at the waves for 8 hours, and it is the best place to be for me. I don't go enough. I mean, it's not far away, but for me, there's so many memories that come from going to the beach and going and watching the ocean, and that come from, even though I'm in San Diego now, I grew up in Los Angeles, and for me it was, we'd get on the 10 West, we'd go through that tunnel, you know what I mean, through Santa Monica, and then
Yeah.
if you stay on it, takes you to Malibu. But when you come out of that tunnel and you see the water and you see the sand, and it takes me back to my childhood. And so for you, you've mentioned on the show a few times how the beach has been part of your life forever. And then, of course, you did a TV show extremely popular, had to do with the beach. When you go to the beach, do memories come back? Because whenever you look at old films, like, our parents, and everyone has the cameras, they're always taken at the beach. Every family always seems to have something with the water. What comes to your mind when you think about going to the beach, and where does your mind take you?
Well, let me say, first of all, I think it's scientifically proven that the beach is a healing place. So
I agree.
for me, a lot of it is like the sound too. I go to the beach so much that I don't have like particular memories of it. It's always a new memory being made. Um, I think as a kid, it's like a play. You go there to play, right? It's always like an adventure, it's a play, it's a swim, it's all of this. And as an adult, it's a relaxation, it's a break from life, it's to get back in touch. It's all of those things. So it's just a happy place for me. So no matter what, different days, different beaches, I go up and down the coast. Um I don't have like nothing like comes to mind. Just I've so much of my life has been spent on that beach that it just feels like home, honestly. I just feel like at home. I'm happy. I'm like, I'm here. And
Did
it's
it
just
did it ever feel like, I don't say work, but stress that, again, you're recognized. I mean, you've been recognized since, you were a teenager, that it's not just, therapy place to go, but feel like, people are watching or people are taking pictures where it's not as fun or not as enjoyable as it should be?
Um, no, nah. I don't
Good.
even think about that stuff. I think everybody can be self-conscious at the beach because you're in a bathing suit. I tend to keep my cover up on. But I also keep a cover up on because I don't wanna get burned, to be completely honest. I wear, like, a thin, thing over so it can get wet, whatever. I just don't wanna get burned. We get so burnt. These days, you only have to be outside for a couple minutes, and you are fried, no matter how
Yeah.
much sunblock you have on. It is scary. It is not the same.
Yeah.
So I like to keep everything just covered because it's just I sit in the shade and I cover up, and it's weird because I've always sat, in the sun with sun oil on, and just times have really changed. The weather and the sun, the ozone layer, everything has really, really drastically changed. So, listen, I wear my cover up. I don't give a shit. I don't care. My feet are in the sand. The waves are crashing at my feet. I can hear the ocean. Yesterday, there were so many dolphins. You saw like 3
Really?
or 4 pods. Yeah, 3 or 4 pods come from different directions and, like, meet up right in front, like, right at the shore, and they were playing in those big waves. They were having a blast. There must have been 15 to 20 of them total
Oh, that's cool. I've
for
never seen that
hours,
before.
because there's so many in Malibu, but, I I don't think you can go to Malibu Beach without seeing dolphins. Like,
Yeah.
they're everywhere there, but, yesterday, they were having a party. They were having a Labor Day party, and, it was so cute and so sweet, and, yeah, those waves are huge, so they were definitely playing in them.
Good deal.
And
And then,
yeah.
of course, as you were I cut you off, but as you were saying, you build up that appetite, and then you went home and you kinda did a barbecue. Is that what you said?
Yeah, we grilled salmon and asparagus, and, yeah, it was just a good end of summer beach day. I probably will go
Nice.
back to the beach before the summer is over, but it was like, the big outing with friends, in tow and all of that.
Good.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
There's nothing like
the
being
kid
tired at the end of the day after a long day at the beach, and you go like, "Alright, tonight's gonna be a really good sleep. This is gonna be
yeah.
great."
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I know. I think I slept 8.5 hours. I wanna say I slept 8.5.
I'm jealous.
That's a
That's
lot.
good. Yeah, that is good. That's really good. That's awesome. So, a lot obviously, going on, and it's always exciting to see what's happening. Real quick, wanna touch on for me as a fan of, TV and movies, I say this all the time. I really look forward to the month of September because the new shows come out, and I want to see, what the storylines are, where do things end off. And there's certain shows that I have set on my DVR to record. I have like 50 something that record on a regular basis, and I'm really bummed out that this year is going to be different, unlike any other year that I can remember, and it might be for a long, long time. um, you obviously you have friends in the industry on both sides. Is it difficult for you to know that you have friends that are struggling right now, or where are you at? I mean, you're also a viewer just like me.
I mean, it's a really strange time. I feel like this is not just gonna go back to normal. I feel like there's gonna be, like, a big turn up in this. I was reading an article the other day, in the Hollywood Reporter, and, they're saying that studios should split from streamers, and that really Netflix is the only real streaming company. They're the only ones that, like, have it down. They're the only ones that could survive this. But, the studios should go back to doing, TV programming and give the streamers a run for their money, go into competition with them rather than trying to, work with them, and then we can go back. Then everything, we can go back to working with studios because the streaming is what is the real issue, right? For everybody. And I just don't know. I don't see it just like going back to what it was. Something has got to change. Something has got to give. I don't know what that is. I hope that they figure it out soon. But I feel like this is going to be a big turn of events, a big thing. Something's got to give because you can't just keep going like this. People are, you know, struggling. Most
Yeah.
people that are in the industry work paycheck to paycheck. They're not, and sure, some successful writers and whatnot and actors have some money saved up, but they're probably living off of that right now, and that can't last forever. So, I don't know. I mean, I wish I had some answers. For me, it feels scary.
Yeah.
It feels like they need to start talking. Somebody needs to make a move. Somebody needs to put themselves out on a limb and go and make a big decision. This needs to happen. And, you know, we're just the only thing we can do is sit back and watch. But, I don't know. It's just not going to go back to what it was. So what that means, I'm not sure. How long it's going to take, I don't know. It's just so much of the unknown. But and I do think it would be great. I do think it would be great if studios went back to doing their own programming, doing their shows, and maybe, just thinking about what made them go to streamers. Think about that and apply it to their own home.
Yeah.
Bring it home. But, easier said than done. Easier for me to sit here, in the audience and say they should do this, they should do that. I don't know all the ins and outs. And I just think it's time. I think somebody needs to gamble. If you don't take a risk, you don't win. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
I hope it's again, as I said, I hope it goes back as close to normal as my normal viewing is, but it doesn't sound like it's going that direction.
I don't think so.
I'm one of those guys that obviously I do have Netflix, and I'm discovering shows that other people are watching, and everyone asks each other. It almost seems like a common question. Hey, what are you watching? What do you recommend? And different things that I'm trying to catch up on because there's not enough time in the day. And I'm loving a lot of the things I'm watching. Like, I'm thinking I'm going to make it. Like, it's not one of those where I'm going to sit home at night and start reading books. I'm sorry, I'm not. Um, and I got to tell you, the show that I've enjoyed a lot lately, and man, I am so far behind. And anyone who listens, going, "Hey, where were you 10 years ago?" I've been watching Shameless, and
Oh,
Sha-
yeah.
and I've loved it. I'm almost done with it. I'm in like season 9 now. I think there are 11 seasons of it, but the acting is outstanding. William H.
Oh,
Macy is so good in this, and everybody's good in it. But the storylines, almost no scene seems like a waste scene. Everything is good, and I watch like 3 of them a night. I absolutely love it.
oh, it's a fantastic show.
Yeah,
Amazing show. Yeah, it's one of the classics. Well, then do you watch Sons of Anarchy, Breaking Bad? Have you
Breaking
watched
Bad
all those shows?
love Breaking Bad's right there in my top 1 or 2 of all time. And so I didn't watch Sons of Anarchy, but I did
Oh,
watch Breaking Bad and Sopranos are probably my 2 favorite shows of all time.
you've gotta watch Sons of Anarchy. It's you know what? That show is what got me into TV and what got me into binge watching. I had never done it before. I was not a TV
Yeah.
watcher. I'm someone who comes home and puts music on, um, or I would read. And Sons of Anarchy, I was like, "Wait, what is that?" Watched 1 episode, ruined my life. Ruined my life. I am a TV watcher. That
Yeah,
show is so good. You wanna talk about acting. Oh my god. Acting and writing, that's an amazing show. You have to catch up on that. But you're right, this is a time to discover things you haven't watched before because there's so much programming out there. There's so much.
yes,
So you could watch it for days and days, but people who are caught up on everything, content is drying up fast.
yeah,
So I don't know how long they can survive like this, What are they gonna do? Pull out all the oldies and, do commercials for that? They've gotta have new content because, it's just there's not much of it left. So, but yes, watch Sons of Anarchy. Oh my god, I'm like my head is spinning that you haven't
yeah.
seen that. You'll love
No,
it.
I haven't. Okay.
You'll love
All
it.
right. All right. Well, it goes on the list then, because I said I'm
Yes.
almost done with Shameless. I'll be doing Shameless in about a week, so we'll be good. I'll move on. It just speaking of I think a lot of people don't understand, and I don't understand either. So I'm going to ask you. I know most people understand that actors get paid for reruns.
Mhm.
Do writers get paid for reruns too?
Yes.
They do. Okay,
Yes.
good.
They get
So
residuals.
so when you negotiate a deal or your agent negotiates a deal, it's just common on, or is it for every actor it's different on the percentage you get?
I don't know about no, I think it's a standard. Like,
Okay.
it's just what I think it's based on your salary. So, like, whatever you made on that project, you get a percentage of that. But residuals, they do, like they lessen over time. But, like, with streaming, when that was not a thing, so say you did a show and, um, it's now being bought by streamers and, being played nonstop, a lot of people don't have those deals in place, so it gets
Yeah.
really weird. I get residuals and I'll get it's so weird with streaming because 'cause I'll get stacks of, like, really good checks, and you're like, "Wow, okay, this is amazing." And then I'll get stacks of, like, 4 and 5 cent checks.
Ah,
And I'm like, "What is this?" And it honestly pisses me off because,
yeah.
I don't wanna for me to open the envelope and I don't mean to sound crass, but for me to open the envelope and I'm looking at how much did that envelope cost? How much did that
Yeah.
postage cost? They printed this check. How much was the paper and the ink? And this check is for 4 cents. I'm now supposed to and they have the worst is it called perforation? Wait, what are those lines that you
Yeah.
rip along?
Perforated.
Perforated,
Perforated.
right. They're the worst on the checks. They're
Yeah.
not like, it's not where, like, the check is folded. You have to take it all apart, and I don't know what is going on with the payroll company, but they need to figure it out. It is so hard to pull these checks apart. I'm supposed to go through that, sign it, and my phone app will not deposit it because it's so small. So I have to go
I was gonna
into the
ask you,
bank. I
how
have
do you
to
go to
go
the and you can't even
into
do
the
it through the
bank.
ATM. You have to go to
Yeah.
the teller,
No,
right?
that it won't take it.
Yeah.
I have to go into the poor teller. So now I'm wasting his time. He or she has to put the all the checks through this thing, and we're sitting there waiting for 4 cent checks. And the other day, the guy looks at me and goes, You just deposited a whopping $30. And I was like,
Damn it.
at the end of the day, it's like, okay, $30 is $30, fine. But I definitely earned
Yeah. No
that
kidding.
$30 has been spent and earned and by all of us. It's just and who puts that check in that envelope? Like none of this adds up. So sorry, I know I went left on that, but
No,
it
no, no,
just
no. It's funny as hell. Yeah, I know what you mean. I've done commercials and I get checks from Disney, from broadcasting, and you're right. The checks are a pain in the ass, and I always seem to miss one side that I didn't tear that I was supposed to tear, and it's a pain. Like literally, you got to pull out get a paper cutter or scissors because you're going to screw it up. You're going to tear right through the check.
yeah.
These are you and me
Yes.
problems, but it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. And
Yeah,
listen, when the checks are meaty, I'm okay. I'll do it all day long. I'll sit down and I'll make a coffee and make a whole thing of it. But when they are 4 and 5 and 7 cents, I wanna I wanna roll them up in a ball and practice basketball. I don't know. I don't get it. And I
oh my
and
gosh.
even Keegan said to me, "Why don't they just keep them all and just send one check?" And I was like, "Kid, because that would make too much sense."
Yeah, no kidding. If they just paid you like once every 6 months, it would be worth it, but to have
Right?
to do it all
Yeah,
the time. Yeah,
just keep it.
a absolutely. Yeah, so I always heard like, Seinfeld and Larry David make well over $100 million a year just off of reruns, you know? And then, like the TV show The Office is always on somewhere. Law& and Order is always on somewhere when you flip through your television. And I'm going, "Oh, someone's making a lot of money." And so it's I guess Dick Wolf, the one who created Law& and Order, probably makes the most money off of it, but those shows are always available. They're always on TV all the time. So is there a magic number that you have to get to? Like, is it 100 episodes to get into reruns? And the show, I'll give an example. When I flip through, Young Sheldon has reruns. I'm like, didn't that show just start? Like, how did they already have enough shows for reruns? But I guess they do. I guess they do have enough shows to rerun that show.
Well, listen, I'm ancient, so what I remember from when I was a kid, and I am sure this has changed. I'm sure this is outdated information, so don't hold me to it. But it used to be something like when you had a commercial, and now commercials are different too. You could book what was like called a national, or you could book one that was going to be in a hot spot, which meant like if it was going to play a lot, you weren't going to get paid every single time. Like there were certain deals to be made out, but I think a commercial had to play a certain amount of times, like say 20 times or something like that before you started accumulating residuals. As far as TV shows and stuff like that, I think it runs twice. After it's run 2 times, is what I believe. I want to say it used to be at least. It runs 2 times and then it's considered a rerun, so to speak,
Yeah,
and then you start gaining residuals. Um, so, when you have streaming, I mean, now it's like, how do you
exactly.
calculate that? Because, yeah, that's at people's demand, right? So it all gets very sticky and icky and weird, and it just needs to be protected. It's not one of these things like, oh, well, people are being petty. They're not. This is like, sort of like overtime for people. It's sort of that sort of, yes, you have to count the minutes, the hours. You have to, it all matters. It all adds up. And this is why we do the work. And this is why we agree upon a certain price, because we know we're getting back end stuff. So it's a big deal. It's a bigger deal than people, I think that they really realize.
No, I understand. So for you, as I said, you started when you were so young, and at the time, I'm sure you're doing it. No, it's a job, but at the same time, it's not really a job. I mean, you're a kid, you're in front of a camera, you're getting attention. At what age did you realize this is big business?
Um, I think that I think my mom always kind of made me aware that it was big business, because she would explain to me that about professionalism and about not being a pain in the ass as a kid on set, that to be respectful of people's time, that it costs money. And, these people were, these were people that you needed to respect, and you want to get in good graces with them. And, um, she just kind of taught me the etiquette of, I think, business life like that. So I always went into it knowing, and I think when you know that and then you start looking for the signs, it's all very obvious. Um, but I think once I was on Charles in Charge, and we worked for NBC Universal, and it was, when you start getting classes on how you have to act outside of work, and how you have to answer questions, and you were prepped for all this stuff. I was like, man, now this is bleeding into my personal life.
Like who has those conversations with you? Is it the people that own the
Like
show?
PR
Okay.
team. Well, it's part of like the PR prep, before you do press and before I'll do this. I don't think they do that anymore. Hopefully they don't. I don't hear about that anymore. But yeah, you're prepped on what to promote, what to say, what not to say, how to handle yourself, how to behave. I think people, now people want to see the real actors, the real personalities. So I
Yeah.
think a lot of that has changed. But back then, it was like, yes, 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 everything's great. We all are best friends. It was all of that. And I think
Yeah.
people, honestly, I think a lot of the audience didn't know that that's, we're programmed to answer like that. And it is what it is, and it was what it was. Luckily, it's not like that. You're free to be your own person, wear what you want, um, and be who you are. And I like that. I do think that there still is a lot of etiquette that goes into it. I do think that they are prompted, on certain topics to bring up, and what to promote about the project and this and that. And they do try to be kind to each other, but at least now you can sort of like throw some of the truth in there, and you're not going to be like blacklisted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Wh-
Yeah.
When you were on like Charles in Charge and Baywatch, do they ever talk about your personal life? Like they knew you were at the age where you're going out, you're going to clubs, you're about who you're around and what you're doing when you're, in public off camera.
Well, when I was in Charles in Charge, I was just a kid. I was not going out. I was not doing very much. Maybe once in a while on the weekends, but with other kids, it was very work oriented at that age. I just, every night was a school night, to be honest. And
Yeah.
and I would go to like the Alfie soda pop parties on the weekends, which was with other actors and other, working kids. And that was about as wild as I got. Um, but Baywatch, yes, I was definitely in the clubs at that age, and, they didn't care that much about that, but they cared more about you representing the brand and wearing the bathing suit, and I would fight. There was a lot of fighting with them, with that, um I remember it was like early morning before we start work. They want to do this, this news. There's this big news crew is coming out. Katie Kirk is going to interview us. And it's early morning. We're sitting in chairs on the beach, on the sand, and it's freezing. And
Boy.
I have my lifeguard jacket on over the bathing suit, and they want me to take it off. Not the news crew, the producers. And I'm like, no, I'm freezing. And one of the producers, I won't say which one, came up and whispered in my ear, "Do you know how ugly you look right now?" And I
Wow.
was like, wow. I was like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Now I'm definitely not taking the jacket off. Now I'm pissed. Now, like, you don't talk to me like that. That's just so rude. And the news crew noticed and saw this like back and forth and wanted to interview me separately after it was all over. And they approached me, and the production caught wind of that. And man, did they put a stop to that quick. So, even, even although they weren't as strict as to what we were to say and do and everything like that, they didn't want things falling through the cracks like that either. So, it is what it is. And all in all, I had a great experience on that show. I just think that there was, it was at a time when there still was a lot of like chauvinistic behavior, and, all of that was still sort of common, should I say. And
Well,
it's
one thing you did on that show is you mentioned it here that you cut your hair short without
mhm.
their permission. Did that turn into an issue?
They were upset about it. It didn't become a huge issue because what could you do at this point? Like,
Yeah.
the hair is gone. Like, there's not much you can do about it. And I was hoping that they maybe saw, where I was coming from as to why I did it, and appreciate that. And listen, the character became very popular, as did most of the characters on that show. Nobody was pissed I had short hair. I had my own different separate audience. And instead of like appreciating that, I got a lot of I would read, and I still read it sometimes in the tabloids, like, or in articles where the production would say that Pam and I were like in competition, or like I felt this and that because of Pam. And it's such bullshit, and it's so annoying. And listen, they were known to make up stories. They were known, and they admit it, that they would stage, this is later seasons, they would stage actors like fighting on set because there was like paparazzi and stuff
Yeah.
watching them being filmed. So they would fake things so that they would get press on it. Listen, that's not the craziest thing I've ever heard. A lot of people do a lot of stuff for press, but they're known for it. And, to say that Pam and I were like in competition, that's the whole point why I cut my hair, is because I didn't want any kind of competition. I wanted it to be separate. And she played like an established lifeguard. She was in a different category. I was a kid. I was supposed to be a kid who's seen the ocean for the first time, as a trying out to be a lifeguard. So I really just wanted some separation in there. And then they wanted to use the excuse of why I got a boob job, why I got an augmentation, because being in competition with Pam. What about all the other women I'm standing next to on
Yeah.
the beach, guys? What about all the extras you've got, all the background you've got in the the atmosphere actors that you have lying around? No, this is not just because of Pam, and I didn't even get huge boobs. This was because I had to wear that stupid one-piece bathing suit that was like, when you're a small-chested female, you want to wear a two-piece because it just looks better, and you can you can perk the girls up a little bit. And like, I don't know, it's a better look. That red, especially, just particularly that red one-piece bathing suit for the lifeguard that they had us wear, was so unflattering, being flat-chested, and it made you more flat, and it just was awful. And I made a stupid decision, as a young girl, and I did that. And it had nothing to do with Pam. Like, if I was going to compete with Pam, I would have had like, huge
Oh
boobs.
yeah.
It wasn't that. It was the environment. It was, everything that was around me. It was me having to put on that bathing suit every day. It was a personal thing. Not everything is a competition, but they like to make up these stories. So,
So
and they
when you,
also like this story. I just want to clear the air on this one. They
yeah,
also like to tell this story that I did it in the middle of an episode. Well, guys, I hate to break it to you, but you don't just go overnight and get a boob job and then you go to work the next day. That's not how it works.
it's not like putting
There's
rims
no
on a
way to
car.
have a boob job in the middle of an episode.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
annoying. Yes.
Oh my gosh. So just curious, now that you kind of touched on it, when you went and had the procedure done, um, at what point did you said you regretted it? When did you go, you know what, this was not the best decision for me? Was it years? Was it right away? Like what made you feel like this wasn't the right move?
Okay, well, I got the first one and listen, what I think happens and what I see and hear about and read about happening is women go in and get it and they wish they had gotten them bigger. So they
Yeah.
always tell them like get a size bigger or whatever. Um as soon as I got it done, they were just too big. They just were too big for my frame. They looked a little crazy in my opinion. And so I immediately knew like this is so big. Why are they this big? As soon as that healed, I went and got them reduced.
Oh wow. So you
And
went through the
yeah,
recovery process twice.
yes. And
Wow.
so, I got them reduced and they were great. I lived with those for many, many, many years and was very happy with them. So that's Nicole's boob story. That's the story of
That
Nicole and her girls. Yeah.
that is funny. Well, again, it's Baywatch, and I think most people when they think of Baywatch, they always think of the bathing suits, and they think of the boobs, and they think of the opening scene with Pam running on the beach. I mean, the way they do the camera and what they keep showing in the opening is for a reason, right? It's what they say all the time. It's what guys look at first, and boom, you have an audience. Doesn't matter what the storyline is. Guys like to look at pretty girls. It's There are certain girls on the show decided obviously not to do it, and there's most of them did do it, but I was just curious to know if the producers or someone says to you, hey, you know what, you might want to go see a surgeon. You might want to is there pressure at all from the people that ran that show to say, you know what, you'd be better off if you did this?
No. No, no, no,
Good.
no, no, no. No, they never said anything like that to me. The only thing that was, and I've talked about this before, the only thing there was is there was a weight clause in the contract. You couldn't go up or down within 5 pounds of your
Wow.
current weight that you were hired at. That was a clause, but, that makes sense too. They
Do they
don't
weigh
want
you in
anybody
every
in.
week?
No, no, they never
Oh,
did a
good.
weigh-in. I think they had it there in case, and you know what how I like to look at it is I think that, in case someone got unhealthy,
Yeah,
with, being on the beach and the pressures of that, because that could go either way too, right? So, you never know if an eating disorder starts to happen or
exactly.
something like that. So I do think that that clause is important. I don't look at it as just they don't want you to gain 5 pounds. I don't look at it just like that because they didn't weigh us in and they never commented on anything like that. So I think, it is a good clause to have, you know.
Yeah, well, I understand. For TV, I understand, especially you said the unhealthy part, where you're bulimic
Yeah.
or anorexic and you're looking out for those signs. I was saying to my son the other day was on a flight and he said he had the seat on the end dial, and he said every time the flight attendant walked by, she kept knocking his arm while he was just trying to fall asleep. And he said she was a bigger woman. And I said things have changed. I said, your mom used to be a flight attendant, and she had to weigh in every single week. She had to be a
Oh,
certain weight, and they literally weighed you in every week to make sure that you went that weight. But of course, they've gotten rid of that. But that's just that's work. That's not obviously in a show where you're in a bathing suit all the time. So it wasn't a matter of it was a health thing, which is a good sign. That you
I mean,
said
I
it.
think
So
so.
it
I th
wasn't
I also think they didn't want somebody, overeating and, like, getting obese and not
exactly
looking healthy in that respect as well because you
exactly.
are representing a lifeguard, right? So either
Yeah.
way, I think it's more of a health thing because they definitely weren't, watching what we were eating at lunch and, they weren't doing anything like that. So
Have you ever
Uh,
worked with somebody that drastically changed their appearance? Like you guys had a break and then all of a sudden it's time to film a new season and somebody had drastically changed their appearance in any show or movie or anything that you've done where you're going, that's not the person we casted.
no, no.
Okay.
I haven't. Um, no, not at all.
You
You
know who
know,
I always think
what?
of and I always feel bad for is Jennifer Grey.
Jennifer Grey.
Yeah, Jennifer Grey.
I knew you were
Because
gonna
you
say
knew I
that,
was gonna say
and it
that
went through my
because
head.
yeah, because everyone always thinks of her Dirty Dancing, but she was the sister in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and you recognized her, right off the bat. And then she, changed her nose, and which is wild because so many people changed their nose, but she was recognizable. And I never once thought of her going, boy, if she fixes that nose, she'd be a lot better looking. But when she changed her nose, she looked like a totally different person,
She
and
did.
it changed her life in a bad way.
I don't know if in a bad way. I mean, you'd have to ask her that, right? So that's a Jennifer Grey question. Did it affect? Yeah. Were people talking about it? Yeah. And was it at a time where that was kind of shocking? Yes. And I don't think she intended it to be that dramatic,
No,
right? I think she just wanted to fix her nose. And like most people do, you probably don't really notice it. You're just like, they look really good right now, And I think she was probably going for that. But you're right, it completely changed her entire face. And not for the worst. She
no.
was
If it was a
beautiful
normal
then and
person, if
yeah,
she was your
beautiful
neighbor,
both
you'd
ways.
go, "Boy, that is you look great." Right? That's what you would say because she did look really better as a person, but she was
She was
recognizable
beautiful
that
either
way.
way. Listen, she was
Yes.
beautiful either way, she just didn't look like the same gal. Like,
No.
it was shocking, and I guess that's the chance you take.
Yeah.
She's the
I've
only
never
one,
seen that
and,
before. I've never seen
other
that
actors,
before.
'cause it's their job, they change their
Yeah.
hair, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes they're you know, sometimes they put on prosthetics on their face, sometimes, they wear wigs or they change their actual hair, they go up and down in weight and all of that, but that's all part of the job. But remember when we had Paul Ruddy on, the casting director, my
Yeah.
friend, and he would say, actors, they think if they're not booking, like, "I should go do this makeover," right? Like, "I should get a haircut, change my hair color, do this," and he said, "That's never the answer. The answer is always in your work.
Yeah.
Why you're not booking or you are booking is because of your work and the time you put into it and your performance. It's not about what you look like." So I think that, to bring back to your point, that doesn't really that's not a big payoff to just go and, like, change the way you look.
Yeah.
That's not gonna, mix things up for you.
Yeah, that is anyway, yeah, that was wild. And honestly, I think if she was my neighbor or a friend, I would say the nose job looks fantastic. Good for you.
Yeah.
But I did not recognize her at all. It
No.
was so weird. I felt bad for her. Like, what is she gonna do? Go back to the way, go to the doctor and say, fix it, go back to the way it was. I mean,
Yeah,
it was very strange. And I'm sure
it
she's still a
was.
great actress. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's
Damn.
listen, I think the shock wore off and then, people accepted her for what she looks like now, which they should.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a little bit shocking at a time when a lot of people didn't do that, right?
No. No, 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 that's true. It's something else. It's funny, it's just thinking, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, I think, came out, like, in '86, Dirty Dancing came out, like, in '87. How much has the industry changed from the '80s to now?
A lot. I mean, everything from content to, you know, the amount of actors, all of it it's just very, very different. But you can say that about a lot of things in life. Everything has evolved and everything has changed. In the 80s, there was a lot of like using the same actors. Like so you had your favorite actors and they did genres and they worked over and over and over again. And I feel like now it's more of like the next best thing, the undiscovered and a lot of that and less of, but then again, there's a lot of resurgence of careers with people because 'cause they're bringing
Yes,
back, like a good feeling, right? So right
exactly.
now, it's a real toss up, which I kind of like. There's so many platforms, there's so many projects, there's so much programming, and there's room for everybody. So I really kind of like that. It's not as exclusive of a circle of actors that are working. So I like that about it. but it was much simpler. Listen, life in general was so much simpler in the 80s. Can we go back? Can we go do a
Yeah.
redo? At least can we just have a week back in the 80s and like let loose for a minute? Um, I swear there's nothing like the 80s. And you know, it's just I think pressures of life are so much more now.
I
Just
agree.
there, pressures of your social media, and there's just so much more you have to do. So it's just it's just a lot more work and a lot less fun. But I would say that about everything in life since the 80s.
Yeah. I think a lot of people though, especially as you said, when you pull actors back from the 80s and you put them in stuff now, people kind of goes back to what that warm feeling. As a viewer, you go, I remember, and then I always, as I said, I'm always the king of going to info and going to who's in it. I want to know, make sure I'm watching the person I think I'm watching. But I do feel that way. I feel that way if I saw Jennifer Grey in something or anyone else, and I go, oh yeah, I just mentioned William H. Macy, and he was outstanding in Boogie Nights. Well, that came out in the late '90s, and I know he's done other stuff, but man, he's so good in Shameless. I'm like, this guy's an outstanding actor, and I think in the show he plays someone in his 50s, but in reality he's 72. And
Yeah.
you're going, he's done an outstanding job. But I was like, when you're able to pull people back, I'm not in the industry, and I'm always amazed how many talented people there are out there. Like if you ever go to a play and you go, man, there are a lot of really good people out there, but there's such a small percentage of people that make it. As we hear all the time, and you hear it more than me, people that said, I packed up and I followed my dream and I moved to Los Angeles and I'm going to make it. And then a lot of times
Yeah.
they just don't, right? 97% of them or something don't make it, but they
Yeah.
they chase that dream, and you made it into that small circle. And I always think as a producer, if you're starting a new show and you decide to go with a bunch of unknowns, that's a big gamble on your end to go, can I survive with a bunch of unknowns? Is the product that good to give these people their first start?
Yeah, I think for younger audiences, it's okay. It works. Also, I think nowadays, people you can have a project that's super successful, gets a lot of attention, you did a great job, but then you might not continue to work, right? I
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
like that saying about 15 minutes of fame, I've never seen it more true than I see it now.
absolutely.
You see somebody
You're
that's
right.
like, this thing, they're the hot new thing, and then you never hear from them or hear about them anymore. And I think that has a lot to do with the media and the people's attention span. It's always like it's this TikTok frame of mind of, you know, reels of just moving on, moving on, moving on, quick clips, moving on, and which is different from back then. Whereas you like to watch people's careers, you like seeing, like for me, it's Molly Ringwald. When I see her, I'm like,
Yes,
it's that warm feeling. And William H. Macy, like Fargo, come on, he's such a good actor. He's such a good character
yes,
actor, and he's a classic. And you know, it's it's that it's that push and pull of, having your solid, good working actors that everybody wants to continue to see with, fresh new faces,
yeah.
you know?
No, you're absolutely right. I think I told you on a previous show that I always will look at celebrity birthdays. I'm always curious to know, how old certain people are, and where they are. And it's amazing how many of them show up that are now, say, TikTok influencer or
Yeah.
Instagram influencer. And I was like, I don't know any of these people. And
Yeah.
I almost wonder, is it dangerous to become that's your goal, to be, say, I want to be an influencer? And does that change? I don't want to put this all on the Kardashians, but did the Kardashians start a bunch of this in your opinion of hey, the influencing, you don't have to be a singer and actor, but boy, you can become very famous, very popular by, going about it this way.
Well, what I think is that all these platforms were going to happen anyways, and the Kardashians were just ahead of the game. I mean,
Good point.
this is, they people want to blame them for a lot of things and say they don't do anything. They have a sense of being ahead, a couple steps ahead of everybody else. And that's something to be credited for. I mean, that's a
I
gift.
agree.
And as far as like influencers go and everything, and people say like, oh, they don't do anything. It is so much work. Like it is a full-time job. For people that think it's just an easy thing to make content all day long, and then it be the right content and content that goes viral, and that you get the sponsorship and you get all that. It's just as hard of work, honestly.
Yep.
It's a different kind of talent. No, it's not it's not an acting thing, and it may look shallow or superficial to some people, but they've got a business sense about them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be making money doing this, and they wouldn't be spending their
Exactly.
entire days and hours of their life doing this if it wasn't, paying off. If this was not profitable, they wouldn't be doing it. And it's obviously generating money. This is obviously a business. So whether you like it or you don't, you have to admit and you have to realize it's a business and it's not going anywhere right now. This is what the kids watch. This is what the youth, our future our future world, this is what they're watching, this is what they like, this is what they find entertaining. So you have to cater to that there's a market for it. It's not easy making the content, uploading it to all the different platforms, editing it. The girls have to do and some guys too, they do their hair and their makeup. I mean, this is like a full-time job.
Yeah, I agree.
Staying on top
It's
of all
not
the trends. Yeah, being ahead of everybody else. This is not them sitting on the couch, shooting a video, posting it, uploading it, and boom, they make money. This is not they make it look like that maybe, but that's not what it is. Wake up
exactly right.
call. Yeah.
Exactly right. All right, let's
Mhm.
get to today's mailbag. Again, if you want to ask Nicole a question, it's easy. All you have to do is go to perfectlytwistedpod.com and ask questions. This one is these are from David. Okay, and David didn't give a last name, but that's fine.
Hi,
First
David.
question: what is your favorite movie of all time?
Oh, listen, I hate that question of favorites of everything. There's no favorite. You have to ask me in a mood on a certain day. I mean, 1 minute it'll be 16 Candles. The next day it'll
Yes.
be Mary Poppins, Grease. I'm trying to think of like the classics from when I was a kid that made me fall in love with cinema. Um, Definitely like Grease was life changing. Mary Poppins was amazing. All of John Hughes films changed my life.
What's your favorite John
And
Hughes
then,
film?
huh?
What's your favorite
What?
John Hughes film?
I mean, I have to stick with 16 Candles. I have to.
Me too.
It's just it was a big part of my life, and yeah, that just hits home for me. Um, and it just depends, like, and then I like, stand up like Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
An hour of Dave Chappelle that, on certain days. That's what I need in my life. Purple Rain, like, I like corny, dramatic. It was visually beautiful. Just I don't have a favorite. I never ever ever have a favorite of anything.
Good. Good deal. Well, it shows you aren't boring. All right. Favorite drink. What's your favorite drink?
Okay, well, I am boring.
I know what
Um,
you're going to say water, aren't you? What are you going to
water,
say?
water, and you know what? Specifically, spa water is what I call it. So I either put like cucumber slices and lemon slices in it, or orange slices and strawberry slices, whatever, in water. Yeah, water's my jam.
I'm a big water drinker too, but if it was my last drink, I would have. I think I'd go Diet Dr Pepper. You can't find it anywhere. So, but
Oh, but you couldn't
let's go
live
to the
off
store.
that.
And so, well, no. So my last drink. All right, I'm not a big alcoholic drinker,
Oh,
so
your last.
I do. But like you're saying, the ice has to be right. It has to be the little crushed ice. And then if for
Uh,
some reason, I had an aunt and uncle who I loved, and they're a big part of my childhood. And every time we went to their house, there's Diet Dr Pepper in the house. It just takes me back to my childhood. But I drink a ton of water. That's all I drink. I don't drink anything else either.
I hate anything diet flavor, that diet
I
aftertaste.
can't tell the difference though in Diet Dr Pepper.
Oh,
That's why I like it. That's why I like
and
it.
then
And
I'll
I
tell
won't
you
drink
another
regular
fun fact.
sodas. Yeah.
Another fun fact, I've never had a soda.
Never. My son either. My son doesn't drink soda ever.
I've
Yeah.
tasted other people's, like, I've probably tasted most of them. I would say not all, like, I've never tried a Diet Dr. Pepper. That's never even been in my mouth.
Yeah.
Um, uh,
Coca-Cola in a bottle, anything?
I don't think I've ever had out of a bottle. I've taken a sip out of somebody's, like, cup,
Yeah.
but I
So if
don't
you go
like
to a
it.
restaurant, you'll say water cup every time.
Every time, just water. I'm fine
That's
with
what my
water.
son does too. My son does the
Yeah.
same thing. Hasn't had a soda forever.
I'll
Yeah.
I'll
He-
occasionally have an iced tea,
yeah.
like at a restaurant because I always like restaurant iced tea the
Yeah,
best.
and
But
it's a pain in
nope,
the ass to
that's
make it
it.
home. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got you. Two more questions. Do you play video games? Why or why not?
I do not play video games. Um, I did when I was a kid, back in like the 80s. We'll go back there when times were fun. Like, I loved Centipede and like
Yeah.
Pac-Man, and I had the first Atari console, Pitfall, and I never even went past like the first, ones that just came with the console. Like, there was like a duck one and like Pong and Pitfall, and like I was happy with those. I started buying
Yeah.
other ones and I was like, "What is this? Nope. Get it out of here. I like that Pitfall. I like that Pong." Um, and now I just those remotes, like the what do you call it that you have to like control it with the controller?
Yeah.
No, I do not have the coordination, the patience, any of it. I'm terrible at like I can't control any of it, so I give up and walk away. And there's just things I could be doing with my time at 50 years old, 51 years old
You know who was a
as a
huge
mom.
video That is funny. You know, who was a huge video game guy was Gary Coleman. Gary Coleman grew up in my
Oh,
neighborhood, and I think I've told you the story where he was doing different strokes, and he would always have to go in and learn his lines. But when his parents let him, hang out with the rest of us, we'd shoot to the arcade, and that guy loved video games. I always thought it was wild, but he always had more quarters than the rest of us had. It was endless amount of quarters that Gary Coleman had compared to the rest of us. But that guy
what
was
to like
always a
go to the
video.
arcade?
He loved going to the arcade, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
you know what?
that was
Listen,
his thing.
I like an arcade. I still nah, I would like to say I still like an arcade, but now they're all those like bright video games
Yeah.
and it's so loud and you get tickets and all that. But I like skee ball,
Yeah,
right? Where you roll the
yeah,
ball. Yeah, I used to love
of
that.
course,
I
of
still
course.
can get down with that.
Do
Yeah.
do you throw it straight or do you bank it off the side?
I would bank it off the side. I would never get any
So do
in if I
I.
went straight. I
Yeah,
mean,
so do
I will
I.
throw a random straight one here and there, but no, I bank it off the side, just
That
like
is
my
funny.
bowling.
I bought my youngest son, I bought him a PS4, and this is a few years ago, and I bought him a PS4 and I got him Grand Theft Auto was the game. And Grand Theft Auto is brutal. It's basically you're just hijacking cars and punching people on the street. And so I'm sitting down and I'm watching him play, and he's like, "I've never played this game before." And I said, "Okay, I'm going to watch." Immediately, he's in Los Angeles. He goes right by Dodger Stadium and he drives into a seedy neighborhood, pulls right into the parking lot, walks into a strip club. I'm like, "What the fuck is going on?" I was like, "You never played this game before?" Like, you seemed like you knew where the strip club was. And I'm like, "What are we doing here? We're just going to sit here for a while." I'm like, "We're just going to sit in the strip club for a while." And it was so crazy. And I was like, "I can't believe I bought this game for a little kid." It was like 9.
Sit
It
in the
was like
strip
the
club.
worst parent of all time. We're just sitting there running over people, punching hookers in the face, and going to strip clubs. And I'm like, what did I just do? You know? He's like, but he pulls the line. I've never played. Sure, you haven't. You know
I've
exactly
never
where you're
played.
going. It's
This
all right.
reminds me of a funny story. I had a
Yeah.
meeting with a guy I was working with, and he drove a very specific car. Okay.
Yeah.
And when I say specific, is specific in style and color. And we had this meeting, and then it's over. We leave the executive's office, and I go run an errand or something, and then I'm driving, and I pass by the strip club. His car is parked right out front. So I text him like, "What are you doing?" Like, "Nothing." I was like, "Are you sure?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Okay, have a good day."
That is funny as hell.
There's a difference in like we can come together and be so the same in one moment, and then we leave the meeting and like I'm going to pick up my kid from school, and he goes to the strip club in the middle of the
That is
day.
funny as hell.
Yeah,
Guys.
my
Guys.
life.
All right. Last question for you. So Nicole, do you have any hobbies?
Who has time for hobbies? Do I have any hobbies? No. I mean, if I had any spare time, I am getting outside and going for walks. And I guess that's my hobby. It's like being in nature, getting outside of like hearing anything. I like to go where it's quiet and, kind of realize my place on this earth, how small we all are. But hobbies, nah. And I'm like one of those people where it's like you mentioned crafts or something like that. My skin starts crawling and I've got to run. I got to get out of here. Oh, look at that. None of that. I am not the one for any of that. So I'm not really good with hobbies. Oh, I like plants. I do a lot of I take care of my plants, and I like we started propagating a lot. I do that. That's kind of a hobby, I guess.
It is.
Propagate.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, David, appreciate again the questions for Nicole. Again, Nicole's mailbag, it's right on the website, perfectlytwistedpod.com. And again, we'll try and get your questions on the air. But otherwise, that will do it for this show.
Yeah, thanks, guys. And listen, I really encourage people to watch. Go on YouTube and watch our show. It's I don't know. I think it has a fun look. What do you think, Dave? I think it's fun. It's fun to watch and listen to. I understand that sometimes we're driving and, podcasts are for a reason. But if you're at home or whatever, check us out. Check us out on YouTube because especially when we have guests, I don't know, it's a real cool looking show and it has a good feel and probably makes a lot more sense if you watch.
I agree. Also, if you're a new viewer, new listener, and you're liking what you're listening to, please go back and watch some of the previous episodes. I think Nicole's done a great job.
Oh, thank you. It's been a good time. Okay, well, we'll see you next week, huh?
All right. We'll see you next week.
Have a good one. Bye, guys.